One cold November night, I got on my bike and cycled into the local park. Under a full moon and surrounded by the sound of geese, I rolled out my sleeping bag and spent a restless but beautiful night under the stars. I was there because I was frustrated. Frustrated that it feels like there's no nature in the Netherlands. So I created my own adventure in a local park. As it turns out, there is indeed very little nature in the Netherlands, and it's a massive problem. So today we're gonna visit a farm up in the north to see what somebody is doing about it, and we're gonna see how all of this is connected to our food. In Groningen we meet Daniel. Besides an adorable dog, he has an impressive CV, from a conservation project in Nigeria to working for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. So we're at Daniel's farm, and if you look around, it doesn't look like the typical Dutch landscape. It's just there's some hills, all these moles, and some tree and bushes and shrubs. This year Daniel founded Wildlife, offering courses for anyone who wants to rewild a piece of land.
Before it was heathland, it was probably forest. And so I'm partly restoring pieces of open forest, if you will.
If you look on Google Maps, the Netherlands is one big mosaic of farmland. So on a big scale you can tell there's not much wildlife left. And this isn't just a problem of the Netherlands. Worldwide we are using half of our land for agriculture. But on a tiny scale, it's even worse. A report from Eat Lancet shows the different ways that our food system is putting pressure on the planet. There are of course greenhouse gas emissions from cutting down forests, methane and fossil fuel use. There's use of cropland, we need to water the plants and make them grow faster with nitrogen and phosphorus fertilizer. And altogether our changing landscapes cause a loss of biodiversity, in other words, animals will die. For all 6 pressures there's a planetary boundary. Exceeding it causes serious damage to all inhabitants, including us. So this is where our greenhouse gas emissions will be in 2050 if we don't make some serious changes. It doesn't look much better for the other aspects, and for the Dutchies amongst us, nitrogen is our stikstofcrisis. But the real shocker is biodiversity. Everyone knows about the dinosaurs. That was one of the 5 mass extinctions in the history of Earth. We are currently causing the 6th one. It's hard to really put numbers on it, but one estimate is that since you've started watching this video, 10 species have gone extinct.
So it's pretty sad to hear that we have 15% of the... What?
Yeah, 15% of biodiversity left. Yeah. All of this is simply heartbreaking. It might feel like a lost cause, but there is hope. Daniel's farm is not really about making food.
What do you think is the history of this gully? A creek of water? No, it's artificial actually.
It's about restoring nature. Daniel has been purposefully shaping the whole landscape.
I created a couple of hills with newly planted forest as well. And this ridge, we made it very steep because many bee species like it, indigenous bee species.
One of the ways of making decisions is listening to the signals. For example, too much moss means that the soil is too sour. And what's so fascinating is the effect that some variation has on the entire ecosystem.
So this is very nutrient poor, which means you'll have different species growing there. If you come here in spring and summer, it's a complete sea of flowers. This in particular, this area is completely purple with zandblauwtje. It's a flower that likes these dry and poor conditions, and it thrives here.
So one of the ways of rewilding this is planting trees, of course, which I'm very excited to do because I've never actually done that with my own hands.
I'll take 2 of these. Oh, he gave me a bonus.
It's not going to be a huge forest. It's sort of, the idea is to have different small trees integrated into grassland and have just much more diversity. Let's see if we know actually how to do this right. We have some trees here. These cost about 150. The more roots it has, the faster it grows. And these trees are native to this country.
And this is certified local. So we know this is not, of this species you can find a lot from Italy, and it doesn't bloom at the same time. And
And so because it doesn't bloom at the same time, it can mean that it doesn't sync well with the insects that look for it.
And you put them in the hole and fill them up with earth up to where the root stops, so somewhere around here.
This is very important because it blooms when almost nothing else blooms. So the insects that need nectar and pollen, they can go to this guy.
Yeah.
So this is a sandy soil, but as you can see, it's rich.
Like everything that is manual labor and not something digital, I have no clue what I'm doing, but it can't be so hard. Okay, actually it's more complicated than I thought. For example, some tree species should be planted in the lowest part because they like more moisture, but even how you dig the hole and how you fill it up again is important because the richest soil needs to be close to the root.
So you can put leaves around it if you want, but a young plant like this doesn't need a lot of fertilizer.
I'm so happy that I finally planted a tree with my own hands.
The success rate is really high with this stuff, so it really depends on what kind of weather we're going to have. 2 years ago we had this horribly warm spring, you know, with temperatures of 30 degrees in April.
Yeah.
And that means you have to water them.
Now all they need is a bit of love and water. So, but what does all of this mean for our food choices? When I talked to Daniel about it, he always started with one question: where are you? Because we have to build our food plates according to what the land around us provides. And I completely agree with him, except that living in Amsterdam, it feels so hard to actually do this. I asked him what the first step could be, and his answer was really clear. We have to get rid of the industrial meat. So here again comes that conclusion that I always fall back on. Eat less meat because that's the biggest difference you can make with your food. But my food journey is developing and I'm feeling this desire. I think I'm ready to eat more local and seasonal. So tonight I'm making Brussels sprouts, a true winter vegetable. The apple is local and seasonal as well, but the spinach, well, it's local but comes from the freezer. So how does this meal help with biodiversity? Well, one answer is that because it doesn't include meat, it frees up land and space for people like Daniel to rewild it. I think that generally holds true, but it's a bit more complicated than that. And if you paid attention, Daniel said no industrial meat. He didn't say no meat at all. When we think of farm animals, we usually think about what the animals can do for us. Provide eggs, wool or meat. But Daniel always looks at the entire ecosystem, so then the question is, what can the animals do for their environment?
Basically the grazers do all kinds of things, of course. They eat, they defecate, and particularly horses, they concentrate their manure, so they like to put their poo here, as you can see. So it creates a different vegetation, but they also create these little pathways. So it creates a new structure. And suppose you're a lizard, and it's springtime, this is where you're going to be, because it will heat up very quickly. But it's nice, they have their own way, and it's always like this. The sheep do the same thing.
I'd love to tell you about all the ways how cows and sheep are important for the ecosystem, but I don't remember the details and it's a topic for another time. The point is that the animals have a role, and that means our desire to have meat should be secondary to their ecological function. And while the cows were munching away on their hay, Daniel served me something else that had been eating something very different than grass. I'm going to tell you what it was and why we should even care about biodiversity in the next episode of Fork Ranger. Thanks for watching, and be honored if you share this video and subscribe, and hopefully see you next time.